Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
$14.90 WGCH. This is Carrie Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. We have gotten such tremendous feedback having interviewed each of the three guests that I have on now that I decided to bring them all in together to talk about what's going on. How is citizens journalism taking over the industry? Because that's what's happening with the death of the mainstream media. With the death of their monopoly, they're just another outlet for opinion. And the three people I have here collectively have gotten over 10 million views and downloads on YouTube and through other various portals on the web. With me now is Chris Duane.
How you doing, Carrie?
And Sean from SGT Report.
Hey, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
Hey, great to have you both. And finally, Brother John F. from BrotherJohnF.com.
Good to be here.
I'm so happy all three of you showed up in one place because I don't know if you guys appreciate how influential and how many people out there are listening to you. If you are somebody, if you are Joe Sixpack, if you're someone who doesn't have the time to get to the internet and you're wondering what's really going on with the financial system, what's going on with our political system, what can you do about it? You guys have done more to illuminate people than anybody else I can think of out there in terms of what I would call non-professional media. Chris, I got a question for you. What is the most important thing that you've done during your tenure as a blogger / citizen journalist?
I guess the biggest thing that I feel I've accomplished is kind of formalizing the awakening process. When I woke up in 2005, I spent 5 years poking around the dark trying to put the pieces together and, going from, learning about the Federal Reserve to wars to nutrition and realizing that all these issues are really tied together. My first attempt was the Sons of Liberty Academy, and that basically put together, 48 hours of video lessons that I put out there for free. And I really felt that it was all the best information that I had found, but I streamlined it in the way that I wish I had learned it. And I feel like that process of being able to awaken people quickly and positively has been a huge help for a lot of people to further them along in this, in this process. And I think the other thing that I've been doing after that is, creating revolutionary ideas, giving people, thoughts based off the knowledge that we had learned on what to do. So, my silver bullet and silver shield was really an idea of, having people divest themselves of paper assets, buying real physical silver, and it acts as a silver bullet against all the things that we're, fighting against, and a silver shield to protect ourself and create generational wealth.
Yeah, that's a great thing you've done too. And Sean, what about you? What do you think your most important contribution has been?
Probably everything Chris just said, because he stole all of my ideas. So he just
hey, if you're going to steal from the best. That's what my
no, I'm kidding. He's a pioneer, and yeah, there's so many people that have been carrying this torch before us. Chris has spoken with Steve Quayle, been interviewed by him on Omega Man, and you've got Alex Jones out there, and there's just so many people that have been doing this for so much longer than we have. For me personally, the most important thing I've done is to get started. Take that first step in the battle to tell truth, speak truth, and try to help others, and just keep plodding along. I mean, I probably had 1,000 hours into YouTube before it really amounted to very much of anything. So take that first step, tell the truth, come from a place of honesty, and just keep plugging along. And then the other thing that I think is the most important thing that's happened from all this is that I've helped others. I can actually, say that I should read you some of the emails sometimes. I get the nicest messages from people via YouTube's personal message system. just thanking me. And, that feels weird because, I'm just trying to do what I think we should all be doing in a time of tyranny, and that's, speak universal truth. So that's why I'm honored to be here with Brother John and with Chris and with you, Carrie, because I think all three of us are doing that. And by virtue of doing that, we're all helping others, and we're helping each other. We're helping ourselves, because if we don't stand up to the winds of tyranny, if we don't stand up to unconstitutional criminal bankers, they're just going to enslave us. As I've said before, they're going to drive us into serfdom. So we have no choice but to stand up and speak out, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And we get so much email that can't even believe it. And some of it's even not spam, But John, what's your thought? What do you think? What are you most proud of that you've done?
Well, I'd have to say the silver story, just because it's really a story that needs to get out. Something that Chris pointed out. It's the idea of the silver bullet and the silver shield. It's not just a way of taking back your power from the fiat money system, but it's also a way of protecting yourself. And it's just, frankly, it's kind of embarrassing for me as an American to see a country such as China out there promoting its citizens' purchase of physical silver and gold. I think they know what's coming, a shakeup in the world system. And for them to do that, that's what I'm trying to do here. But our government's on the other side. Our government's doing everything they can to suppress the prices. And I just really, want to help people prepare for the future. And I just think that silver's such an incredible opportunity. I just try to bang the drum on the fundamentals and bang the drum on what a potential price explosion we have. And it's just going to help a lot of people once it ends up happening.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it incredible how topsy-turvy the world is when China becomes the land of opportunity? Now, granted, it's still a totalitarian state, but the genie's out of the bottle there. The party's days are numbered no matter what happens. That's my own personal belief. And we're looking at economic freedom, which I think all other freedoms spring from eventually. And they're like eating our lunch. So that's an incredible thing. And hey, John, you've done a lot of productions. What's your most controversial? Which one got the most feedback?
Well, probably for me, the recent stories I've done, I've used the term socialism, but I think others have used the term collectivism and what we're seeing in Europe. I just did a story last night about the difference between Greece and Iceland and how Iceland pretty much told the bankers to go take a flying leap. And Greece has unfortunately gone the other direction and enslaved themselves to them. But, in the process of that, I've criticized collectivism, and I've really received a lot of heat, especially from my listeners in Europe. And I understand there's economies that are mixed, like Norway and others that are very successful. But for the most part, I feel that this collectivist mindset, that someone's going to take care of you, it seems that the United States is going down that road, and it's just, in my mind, a road to disaster.
Well, totally agree with you. And as I think it was Gerald Ford and others, I think Barry Goldwater said it, the government that's big enough to give you everything you want is powerful enough to take away everything you have. So always be mindful of that. Chris, what's been your most controversial production? And I know that's tough because all of yours are so controversial, and that's what I really enjoy about it. We don't need an echo chamber. If I agree with everything Chris says, then there's really something wrong. People need to think, and controversy hopefully makes people think rather than turning them into like fans at a English soccer game,
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely tried to push my readership, and I've taken a lot of heat. I came onto the scene really writing about silver because I knew that was something that both people feared the crash of the dollar and also had that greedy sense about them about making a ton of money, and that ended up being the basis for that silver bullet and the silver shield. I didn't receive too much negative stuff from that, but most of the audience that came with me only wanted to hear about silver. Why is silver so great? The silver. So as soon as I started writing about anything political, I got a lot of negative feedback. So two things that I probably got the most negative feedback that, I expected. Anything I write about Zionism, immediately I get 30, hate emails, not calling me Nazi, all this other stuff. And my view on Israel and Zionism and all this other stuff is, first of all, Zionism is just another form of collectivism. Number two, I don't care what they do. Let them go do whatever they want to do, whatever policies they want. I just don't want us involved. I'm like Ron Paul. We're broke. We shouldn't be in Israel, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Germany. We're broke. We need to bring our boys home, get to a smaller sense of self, a more constitutional sense of self, and, let these guys go off and do whatever they want to do. And I'm against, all these neocon wars. I mean, it's not for nothing. We've been involved in wars for 10 years. When this all kicked off in 9/11, I was in the Marines for 5 years, and I did another 2 after 9/11. So that was a big, a lot of negative comments. And then I think the other thing that I lost a lot of people, and, to me, good riddance, is about 9/11. I did this huge article called A Decade of Denial and Deception, where I basically went through the entire process of why people are so blind to this simple fact. And if people don't get their minds around 9/11, it's hard for them to get around all these other issues. And if they don't start seeing truth and start questioning their reality, the mathematically inevitable collapse of this dollar will render you, it's going to be the single largest event in human history. And if people can't question 9/11, can't question the dollar, can't question their media, can't question their politicians, when it's consistently been shown over and over again that it's a lie, your possible life is in danger. I mean, this is, something I'm very passionate about, and I devote a lot of energy. And I've never worked so hard, made so less. And, I got, somebody saying, well, congratulations, you found your passion. But I'm very passionate about this, and I wouldn't be working as hard as I am today if I didn't think that there was still time. At some point, there's no words that are going to come out of my mouth that are going to make things turn around for people.
Yeah, and, it's funny when you talk about that. I mean, we all have our loyalties and our emotional attachments to certain countries around the world, whatever, people might have come from, our forefathers. But the fact of the matter is, you're right. We're broke. And a lot of the reason why we're broke is because we've been trying to hold this whole thing together for too long, and that's led to all sorts of horrendous things that have occurred. And, people really do need to take a look at, do we need to have 900 overseas bases or whatever the number is? And, Sean, what about you? What's been your most controversial production to date?
Well, first I just want to say that, in Chris's case, he's really bravely spoken out and chosen to speak out about 9/11, which author David Ray Griffin has referred to as a sacred myth. And it's a story that the average American who hasn't woken up about what happened on 9/11 needs to embrace, because the paradigm under which they all live is absolutely dependent on that story being true. Now, if you want to talk about the lost gold of Chinese emperors or anything else, take a look at all the gold that was under those buildings on 9/11, much of which was never recovered. Chris has written about that in detail. So my hat's off to anybody who has the courage to stand against these winds of tyranny and speak out about what happened on 9/11, because it is the linchpin of all the tyranny that has rolled out since, from the TSA to the DHS to the Patriot Act to the John Warner Defense Act, the Military Commissions Act, the NDA S-1867, turning this entire country into a battlefield, all on the back of the 9/11 story. And if people don't have the courage to look at it and look it in the face and find out that the boogeyman that pulled that off is still running the show, then we will never get our country back. All right, so now as far as controversy goes, I'm just throwing myself in the thick of it with that statement, but I don't, I don't care. That's why I'm here. But I don't think there's any of the four of us who's been more controversial than me, and it's people, throwing mud, which is really sad. A lot of people don't know this. When my name was being dragged through the mud for months and months, as being a squelcher on a bet and all this other nonsense, what people don't realize is that the person who was making terrible accusations against me in videos and slandering my name and libeling me, I'd supported their channel and actually called that person out months before, saying, "Hey, here's a person speaking truth. I mean, we need to support people like this. This is what every red-blooded man in this country should be doing, is having the courage to speak out." And then 3-4 months later, out of nowhere, this person starts making vile videos about me over nonsense, and so that was very hurtful and painful, and I chose not to address it because I didn't want to give that person any publicity, which unfortunately I'm kind of doing now. But the point is that all of us must stand up and speak truth, and there's going to be repercussions. There's going to be people that come against us for that truth. I did a video called "Which Criminal Bank Hates SGT Report," which I think pretty much links up those same people who were slandering me, because it came from 3 IP addresses, all linking back to Bank of America, which is incredible, but it's true. It's documented. You can watch that video and you can see the evidence for yourself. And after I posted that video, most of the hate-filled messages, the libel, the slander, the attacks against me, most of them stopped. They haven't stopped entirely. But as I've said before, Kerry, it doesn't matter to me. I think I had 12,000, 14,000 subscribers when those attacks started, and I quickly went to 20,000 subscribers because people, it calls attention to what you're doing, and then people look at your material, and then they realize that your tree bears fruit. So, let them attack us, because at the end of the day, truth is all we have on our side.
Yeah, that is the unvarnished truth there for sure. And Sean, as far as your future goes, where do you see your work? Where do you see SGT Report taking you?
I don't know. I take it day by day. Another vicious attack on me recently said that I had said that I had quit my job or was quitting my job to do this full time. I have never, ever said that, Kerry. As you know about me, I take great pride in what I do for a living. I have a career. I do very interesting work directing productions and stuff, commercials and things like that. And I've always taken great pride in everything that I've done with SGT Report and my YouTube channel has been on the side. It's been in addition to what I do professionally. And again, that's what I think we should all be doing. We should all be finding the time in our personal lives to stand up and speak out and to flex our First Amendment rights so that we don't lose them. And so for me personally, I'm going to just keep doing that, as I've said I always would, as was the intent from the start. And the other thing I want to do is I want to inspire others, as has Luke Radowski, Adam Kokesh. I want people to feel empowered, to stand up, to go to their city council meetings, to put those videos on YouTube, to talk about fluoride, talk about silver and gold as constitutional money, educate others and get that message out and feel empowered to do so. So just real quickly, I want to give the 4 rules of citizen journalism. Okay, I have a journalism degree, and here's all I learned to get my journalism degree. Number 1, who, what, when, where, and why. Number 2, follow the money. Those are the 2 things I learned to get my journalism degree. Mm-hmm. But since I've woken up, I've learned 2 more things. So those are the first 2. Number 3, qui bono, who benefits. And number 4, understand the Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, solution. On 9/11, we got hit. It was a huge problem. The public demanded a reaction, demanded a solution. The public reacted, and the government imposed a solution, which is endless unconstitutional war and tyrannical draconian legislation. So those are the 4: who, what, when, why, and where. Follow the money, qui bono, and understand the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution.
Sounds very sensible. John, what about you? What's in the future for you? And the other thing I just wanted to state is the reason why I picked you 3 is because your production values in everything you do is extremely high, I should say, are extremely high. And because you see a lot of stuff that is really garbage that might have a good message, but the message gets lost in poor production. And unless you can keep your production values high to enhance your message, it's going to get lost on the internet. So with that, John, what's your thinking? Where's the future taking you?
Well, I'm kind of feeling like a conspiracy lightweight after those, but actually, I've broken out my other channel. I have a Conspiracy Nation channel, which is kind of in hiatus right now, but I covered a lot of the 911 stuff. But I'm trying to concentrate mainly on silver, and for me, I really want to see the 50 taken out. The 50 is just a nominal high for silver, and We should be way, way beyond that price by now. And at that point, I think the community is really going to expand. I think that it's very important that we're already on the ground floor. When the public comes rushing in, I think the public will come rushing in. And then the other really important thing to remember is that right now, silver is only for small people. In other words, the market is so tiny that if you took a number like $50 billion, I don't know, take $50 billion as an example, I think we're accumulating $4 billion a day on the national debt or something like that. So that'd take you 10 or 15 days to get that amount of money. If you drop $50 billion, which, by the way, is a number that any of the sovereign wealth funds or hedge funds could write a check for tomorrow.
It's a rounding error for some of them.
Right. But if you drop $50 billion in the physical silver market, you'd have a blowout that makes the Hunt brothers, which Chris just covered, look like, a walk in the park. I mean, you'd have an explosion. So really, the silver market is only for the little guys right now. The big guys can't even get in. Now, when the price gets high enough, you're going to see the public come rushing in. You see the big guys come rushing in. And that's what I really think is going to be the future. And the ones of us that were there in the beginning are probably going to gain a lot of audience at that point.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point, John, and that is there's roughly, the guesstimate is 1 billion ounces of silver above ground. At the current price, it's $35, call it $35 an ounce. That's only $35 billion, which really is a rounding error on the annual U.S. debt. I mean, $35 billion to the United States government that could be sitting in an account for the Kenyan reconstruction project for all we know. I mean, what's $35 billion to this profligate beast? So, Chris, what about you? You're so prolific. You got so many things coming out. I love the baby boomers production, because if you're a baby boomer and you don't know it, you are so screwed. You don't even have a clue. At least our children, I'm a baby boomer, and I do know how screwed my generation is, but at least our kids got their lives ahead of them. Us baby boomers, you and I, are, fastly approaching upper middle age and going into old age. There's real problems there. So, Chris, what's ahead for you?
Well, it's funny. Two things. The baby boomer video I did about silver, basically telling baby boomers you got one last shot to get things right. You just spent 30 years working for a corporate system, spending all your money into a 401k and IRA. It's going to fail. You got taken away in the stock market. You got taken away in the housing market. Silver is really your last shot. And it's funny, 2 days after that, the Drudge Report, I think today, has an article saying the new norm for baby boomers is work till you drop. And then a day after I did that video, I did a video about how silver's relationship to the price of gas, and that silver is calling for gas prices to be at $6. And what do we have today? Drudge got $6 gas. And I'm not saying anybody's following me, but we are ahead of this. Where am I going with this? Well, it's where society's going. I did one of my most forward-thinking articles, and it really was to lay out the process of understanding where we are, is the 5 stages of awakening. And as you guys all know, it's it's the same process of going through death and dying from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So personally, when you wake up, you go through denial, where you don't want to hear anything. Once you do come to a new truth, you become angry at it because you're hurt that you wasted time or was taken advantage of, or you fell for something wrong. Then you enter the bargaining phase, which is the most annoying phase of the awakening, where you start talking to everybody about 9/11, Federal Reserve.
They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it.
And that naturally leads you into depression. So you become pissed off that everybody doesn't see what you see. And then the final stage is acceptance, and that's where I feel I'm teaching from, where you can actually start looking forward to the new paradigm. So I look at it as, here I am in acceptance. The world is clearly in denial. But I know that when this all comes down, when the dollar collapses, when silver moonshots, when, wars break out, cats and dogs are friends, humanity is going to go exit denial, because there will be no longer be able to be ignorance is bliss and keep their head in the sand and, assume that the lights are on, the food's going to come, and American Idol is going to be on. They're going to be met with the anger phase. And that is going to be a very, very violent and upsetting course of humanity. I think more history is going to be written the few weeks surrounding the collapse of the dollar than probably the last 60 years.
Oh, yeah.
And at that point, it's not good to be a truth teller. And I would suggest all of you guys, to basically head to the head to the cellar because, my favorite quote is from Voltaire. I'm very fond of the truth, but not at all a martyrdom. I devote a lot of time and energy to getting people to understand truth, but I'm not going to be the one leading the charge, against some police state. But after that, I've laid out a couple plans. The greatest truth never told, and truth never told on YouTube. And then my ultimate exit strategy is saying, hey, there's so many guys out there who can tell a great doom story. But I think where the real test, where that fruit that Sean talked about is, what do we do? What's their answers? Judge a man not by his answers, but his questions. So many guys can describe a problem, but when they come down to the answers, most of these guys are saying, hey, go buy, a paper stock or, do all this other stuff. And I'm like, hey, that's leading you right back into the exact same paradigm. It's the paper system that's going to collapse, and you need to be buying real tangible stuff. So in my ultimate exit strategy, I kind of go 3-4 steps beyond what everybody else is talking about and how we can leverage our physical assets into the next paradigm and actually start creating something positive. We know we can do it for ourselves, personally. Collectively, if you have like-minded individuals, I think we can do something more positive. And, not for nothing, guys, we are going to know a lot of very wealthy people when this paradigm shift happens because we know a lot of silver and gold owners. And I'm telling you, this is going to be the largest transfer of wealth, and that if you've, awakened people, you've changed people's lives already. After this happens, when people see the lottery tickets that each silver dollar represents, there's going to be a lot of wealthy people who are, to me, are very thoughtful, grateful, and caring people, and that we can create something much better out of this, and we're going to have the power to do it.
Yeah, and that's...
Hey, Kerry, if you don't mind, can I weigh in with a question when you're ready?
Absolutely, sure. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it might benefit listeners, and it would certainly benefit me personally to hear all of your opinions on, when have we finally crossed the Rubicon? When is it time to maybe uproot your family and hightail it out of this country because, we can't beat the tyranny. And right now I feel like with Ron Paul doing so well and patriots and military standing up in support of Ron Paul, I feel like we are standing against these winds of tyranny pretty darn well. And Chris, you are leading, even though you say you don't want to, be a leader into martyrdom, you are leading right now. So my question for the group is, with Obama having passed NDAA on New Year's Eve, where is the line in the sand now for you guys? Do they have to start black bagging people? Do patriots have to start disappearing before we realize it's time to go?
Well, I'm going to take that one, okay, because we're going to have to wrap up pretty soon anyway, because it's something that I've given a lot of thought to, and I know all of us have. It's the kind of thing where you don't want to live your life based in fear. Mm-hmm. Right? That's why we're doing what we're doing so openly, because we're not going to kowtow to fear. Now, it doesn't mean that you want to get locked up or you want to get taken away in the middle of the night, because Peter Schiff, who I have a lot of respect for, I really like the guy, brilliant guy, he's gotten the message out, especially about Ron Paul. His father is sitting in jail because he didn't want to pay his taxes, because it's unconstitutional. And you know what? I believe he's 100% right. But the problem is, you go to jail, forget about all the other stuff. The biggest problem with going to jail is it's a waste of time, right? Once you lose that time there, it's gone. So my point is this. I think it's going to become very apparent very quickly, and this is probably a bit off from here. But when things really start to break down, we're going to know it. Whether it's too late or not at that point, I don't know, because there's telltale signs of societal collapse all around us that nobody wants to look at. Look at Detroit, look at Las Vegas, look at various other failed cities across the country, like Gary, Indiana, like Camden, New Jersey, Philadelphia, parts of it, Chicago, parts of it. It's happening already. The question is, at what point, when order breaks down, is it really time to go? And I don't think anyone has the answer to that, but you need to be very, very aware and alert and attuned to what's really going on around you. And on that note, Chris, you could just tell us where we find you on the internet again?
Sure. Don't-tread-on.me, Truth Never Told on YouTube, thegreatesttruthnevertold.com, and the Sons of Liberty Academy.com.
That's a lot. Hey, Sean, what about you? Where do we find your denizen on the web?
Well, thanks to all you guys. It was nice speaking with you today. SGTReport.com is the website, and on YouTube, SGTBull07. But SGTReport.com is all you need.
Yeah, and it's definitely a go-to place. And John, where do we find you?
BrotherJohnF.com or Brother John F on YouTube, or you can just Google Silver for the People.
All of you, you're doing an amazing job. Millions of people are watching. When you start hitting 1 million people, they start standing up and taking notice. So everybody be careful. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll definitely do this again.
Thanks, Kerry.
Yeah, thank you, Kerry.
Thanks, guys.